No. There we go. Of course, I am always bad with technology, so that makes some sense. Here, I'll turn that one off. And I'm also going to kick my shoes off because knowing me, I will trip. So, how are we all doing this morning? Good. I'm so glad to be here. I have missed you guys so much. I've been gone the past couple weeks. It's been pretty insane there in Mankato with work and school and everything, but I'm so glad to be here this morning. So I don't know if y'all, hi, I'm Karrigan. I'm pretty sure everyone here knows me, hopefully. Maybe not. I don't care. It's all right. Well, you're going to know me now. So how many of us like basketball? Oh, come on. I know there's more than that. For real, guys. Yes, thank you. Basketball is such a crazy game. Anything can happen all at once. So, I like talking to my classmates about this because it's crazy how different volleyball is from basketball. For example, in volleyball, you can kind of control the game. I mean, it's all on your side. But in basketball, you may have a play, but if one big 6-foot, 200-pound defender comes at you, they can mess that whole play up. Am I right? I am not that 6-foot, 200-pound defender. I am the little one that gets pushed around by the 6-foot, 200-pound defender. So in basketball, we always keep points, and it's always crazy to see those points rack up so quickly through a foul, through 2 points, through 3 points, through a free throw. All those different kinds of things. And what I found so interesting about basketball is those points, you can either win so fast or lose so quickly. And trust me, my basketball team really knows how that feels. So I think basketball kind of relates to the phrase that I have heard so many times. How can 2020 get any worse? How many of us have actually said that for real? Be honest. I'm being honest. I have definitely said it as well. I am very guilty of that. How can 2020 get any worse? Like if something were to happen, we're like, oh, it's 2020. Of course that happened. Or I just broke my foot. Well, of course, that's 2020. Of course it happened. Or the whole dust. Oh, it's 2020. Of course that happened. So in life, I have found out we like to count the points of disappointment. So today's sermon is called Points for Disappointment. Being in high school, I have learned a lot of us like to keep points for the amount of times we've been disappointed, the amount of times we've been let down, because we like to see who's going to win the My Life Sucks game. Am I right? It's for real, for real. It's just like basketball. Sometimes we like to count the points of how many times my heart's been broken, how many times I've had a death in the family, how many times I've been hurt. We count the negatives, and I am also very guilty of this. Like I said earlier, I have been the one that has said, how can 2020 get any worse? In fact, on the first day of 2020, I was going to my friend's birthday party, and I got my car stuck on a mud road. Do you know how embarrassing that is to not have four-wheel drive, 1? 2, that was not the right road I was supposed to go on. And 3, have to get pulled out of the mud being towed by her father. I am 17. That is very embarrassing, especially because it was not the right road. This has happened many times. First day of 2020, going off great. 2 weeks later, basketball game. Lots of injuries, and it's like, how can 2020 get any worse? So we're going to pull up the story of Judas. If you can pull up Matthew 26:14. All of us know Judas as the bad guy, the one who betrayed Jesus. All right, so that is when one of the 12, the one named Judas Iscariot, went to the cabal of high priests and said, "What will you give me if I hand him over to you?" They settled on 30 silver pieces. He began looking for just the right moment to hand him over, just the right moment. It had to be perfect. On the first day of the days of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and said, "Where do you want us to prepare your Passover meal?" He said, "Enter the city. Go up to a certain man and say, 'The teacher says, my time is near. I and my disciples plan to celebrate the Passover meal at your house.'" The disciples followed Jesus' instructions to the letter and prepared the Passover meal. After sunset, he and the 12 were sitting around the table. During the meal, he said, "I have something hard but important to say to you." Oh my goodness, how many times have we heard that in our lives? Someone comes to our dinner table and says, "Guess what? I have some bad news for you." Just like 2020, right? One of you is going to hand me over to the conspirators. They were stunned. And they began to ask one after another, "It isn't me, is it, Master?" As soon as the meal was finished, he insisted that the disciples get in the boat and go on ahead to the other side while he dismissed the people. With the crowd dispersed, he climbed the mountain so he could be by himself and pray. How many times when we have been betrayed, decided to go into a room separated from everyone else and decided to pray? It sounds kind of like quarantine, right? God was like, man, they're all getting mad at each other. They're betraying each other. Why don't we close the doors and have them pray by themselves just like Jesus did? And he stayed there alone late into the night. Meanwhile, the boat was far out to sea when the wind came up against them and they were battered by the waves. Is this Matthew 26:14? Oh. Well, we're just going to go with it. You know, it's all right. So this is actually the story of Peter. My bad. At 4 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them walking on the water. They were scared out of their wits. A ghost, they said, crying out in terror. But Jesus was quick to comfort them. Courage, it's me. Don't be afraid. Peter, suddenly bold, said, Master, if it's really you, call me to come to you on the water. He said, come ahead. Jumping out of the boat, Peter walked on the water to Jesus. But when he looked down at the waves churning beneath his feet, he lost his nerve and started to sink. He cried, Master, save me. Jesus didn't hesitate. He reached down and grabbed his hand. Then he said, faint heart, what got into you? The two of them climbed into the boat, and the wind died down. The disciples in the boat, having watched the whole thing, worshiped Jesus, saying, this is it, you are God's son for sure. So I'm going to have to skip ahead in my notes a little bit, which is completely fine. Maybe that's God's way of saying, Karrigan, you need to preach this part first. So we all know the story of Peter of little faith, as we like to say. We always like to bash Peter, like, come on, Peter, you really thought Jesus was a ghost. But in all reality, picture this. You're on a boat. It's already stormy. You're like, man, we aren't going to make it out of here. And all of a sudden, you see someone walking on water. I don't know about you, but that would be something I would say, man, I can believe it. It's 2020, right? So maybe that's what God's trying to do. He's saying, it's 2020, so you better expect me to come in the most unexpected ways. So Peter came out of the boat. Jesus grabbed his hand, and boom, he started to sink. How many of us feel like we're sinking? I do. Sometimes as a Christian, it's so hard to keep that faith up, especially during these times, because it's all unexpected. So Peter started to sink, and he's like, Jesus, please save me, please. I don't want to be let down again. Ooh. Disappointment. Maybe Peter in his lifetime has seen so many disappointments that he's racked up those points on the visitor team. He's inviting the devil into his life because he's racking up the points on the visitor team for the devil to win because he wants to say, my life sucks the most. But Jesus said, no, I got you. And he said, Peter, you of little faith, you really thought I would let you sink and drown? So maybe you feel like you were holding on to God's pinky, just that little bit. He says, I'm not going to let you drown. He says, I'm here. And that's so comforting during these times. He says, I'm here for you. I'm not going to let you sink or drown. I'm not going to let that dang visitor win. The home team's going to win. God's team is going to win. So he grabbed Peter by the hand and pulled him up, and they said, surely you are the Son of God. Surely you aren't going to let us down. Surely you're going to be there for us. And they all couldn't believe someone could save them from drowning. They all couldn't believe someone could save them from sin, death, darkness. I can't believe God would save me from the amount of dirt I carry. I couldn't believe God could save me from the amount of disappointment I have racked up. The amount of points I have racked up. Now if we could turn to the story of Judas, Matthew 26:14-22. And again, Judas is kind of the same way as Peter. We all like to dog on him for not listening to God or going against God. Is that really it? 26. Okay, yeah, gotcha. Nope, that should be it. Yes. So we talked about Judas and the silver pieces. If you want to flip through. And we talked about his Passover meal. And we talked about that one as well. Okay, after sunset, he and the 12 were sitting around the table. And he said, one of them is going to disobey me. We talked about that as well. They were stunned and then began to ask one after another, it isn't me, is it, Master? As soon as the meal was finished, he insisted. Oh, that's 14. You got 26. Okay, is it, Master? Oh, and that's all I gave you? Oh, this is all my fault. I am so sorry. Sorry, Taylor's doing her job. I am not doing mine. I greatly apologize. Well, I'll just tell you the story. Anyways, Judas was going to hand over Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. We all kind of know how that story goes. And then when the time comes, Judas feels so much guilt within himself. He feels like such a disappointment for handing over his God, his Father, in the presence of Jesus, that he took his own life because he felt like a disappointment. He racked up so many points on the visitors' team for the amount of disappointment that he said, I'm done, the game is over, goodbye. He gave up. I don't know how many of you have been on a sports team, but there's a coach that says, no, we aren't going to give up. Just like in football, you're about to get 45. That coach better say, we are not giving up. There's been times my team's been down by like 20 points, and our coach still says, no, it's not over. It may be the fourth quarter, and they may be up by 30, 40 points even, but we are not going to give up. And though we may lose, we rack some points up on our side still. And even when the game is technically over, that buzzer has rang, we aren't done with our season. We're going to keep playing. We're going to rack up those points on the home team till the home team wins and not the visitor team. Sometimes we add up the points of disappointment instead of goodness. It's the game of good versus evil. We let evil win. Judas didn't know the forgiveness. He didn't know what forgiveness felt like. He didn't allow that. But Jesus still forgave him. But Judas said, no, I can't. I'm such a disappointment. I can't do that. I've been let down so many times. I've never been forgiven before, God. How will I know what your forgiveness feels like? How many of us have felt like, I've been not loved so much, I don't know what your love feels like because we don't know how to be his. So there's this song that I love to sing because I relate to it so much. It's called How to Be Yours by Chris Renzema. And the first line says, you say that you love me, don't say that you love me. And this is us talking to God. You say that you love me, please don't say that you love me, God, because I don't know if I can trust you. Because the last time someone said that to me, they didn't mean it. How many of us have said that to ourselves? In all honesty. And then the verse keeps on going. You say that you want me, don't say that you want me. We like to rack up the points of heartbreak, but if we have never experienced love in God's form, we don't even know love. Because love is sacrifice. If the love I've experienced that has hurt me, broken me down, caused me to rack up those points of disappointment, if that's love, I sure as heck don't want it. You say that you want me, don't say that you want me. We have had so many people leave our lives. Now, I don't know all of your stories, but I know we've had some people just walk in and out as they please. And that's one more point for the disappointment board. But we don't know how to be God's. We actually don't know how to be children of God. I'm going to let you ponder on that. Isn't that weird to say that we actually don't know how to be Christians? And it's because so many people have left. We're not used to someone staying. So we push them away because we're like, I'm going to let you go before you leave already. I'm not going to get attached. I'm going to let you leave before you leave. But the thing is that we don't know how to be God's because he's the one who actually will stay despite your hurt, despite your darkness, despite your dirt. He is the one that will actually stay. Because once Peter was drowning, Jesus said, I'm going to stay. How many times have people walked out, abandoned us, left us for dead? Point disappointment because of those who left. But then in the song, it says, I still act like an orphan, I guess, and my hard heart breaks to confess. We put up so much guard that we can't put it down when someone is actually trying to fix it. My dad is a construction worker, and I have been through many times where he puts up sheetrock. And I'm sure everyone else knows what that is, probably, hopefully. I don't know. But it's really, really hard once you put up that sheetrock. You don't want to tear it just down. So let's say someone hurts you and you put up that wall. And right as you put it up, someone comes knocking again saying, I'm going to stay. And you have to tear that wall back down. Do you know how expensive that is? How time-consuming that is? Nobody actually wants to do it. Nobody wants to tear down their walls because it took them so long to build up. It took so much hurt to build up. We put it up so high and so thick because we don't want to put it down when God is trying to fix exactly what's behind that wall. All that dirt, all that darkness, all that sin, all of it is behind that wall, but we don't want to tear it down. Because what if God says, I'm going to come in and fix you, but the last person who said that, they actually made it worse. Point for disappointment. And the next verse goes that even while you hold me as I cry on the floor, I still don't know how to be yours. This past week has been absolutely insane, not just for me, but I'm sure for so many other people. And there's times that you may just want to cry, and you just want someone to hold you. But even while you hold me as I cry on the floor, even though God is still there to comfort us, we don't know how to handle it. I have met so many people in my lifetime that I can tell they just need a hug, but when you give them a hug, it's kind of awkward for them because they've never had someone just look at them and be like, I know what you're going through. I'm going to give you a hug and comfort you. It's the same way with God. Sometimes the only comfort I need is I just really, really wish Jesus would come into my room, sit on my bed with me, and just hug me. Just be there for me. Just be there. Just hold me while I cry. But the thing is that even if God were really there, would I actually know how to handle it? I know as Christians we like to say like, oh yeah, if Jesus comes, I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what I'm going to say. I know exactly how I'm going to feel. If he comes and hugs me, I know I'm going to feel so good. And yeah, I'm sure we will feel great. But how will we actually handle it? Wouldn't we push him away because that's what we like to do with people who don't know how to stay? I've never met someone who knows how to stay. Maybe that's what you like to say. I don't know what it feels like for someone to actually stay. I don't know what it feels like for someone to actually pull me up as I'm sinking. God, I am sinking so deep right now. I just need you to hold me as I cry on the floor. But God, I don't know how to handle it because I don't know how to be yours. We are so broken, and that's okay. I heard a phrase from one of my friends in FFA, and she said she was talking to a national FFA officer, and they said, leaders are actually broken teenagers trying to fix broken teenagers. And I have never heard something more true in my entire life. It's just like Christians. We're just broken people trying to fix broken people. We're just trying to figure it out all together. That we don't know how to be his. You may say to God, I want to be healed, I want to be loved, I want to be hugged, I want to be better, I want to be his. But you got to let your guard down, 1. 2, don't count up the points of disappointment. Don't be the one who wins the game. My life sucks more than you. How can 2020 get any worse? I don't want that at all, because I know sometimes we say that in front of people, but then we go home and we pray and we're like, God, can't you just fix it? But we keep racking up those points. And 3, let God move in your life. No walls. I want healing. God, I want to be yours, but I'm lost. But remember, he says, I make the lost found. And maybe you're thinking, Karrigan, it's too late. It's way too late for me to turn it all around now, for me to not be negative. And I was just talking to my friend last night about it's so hard to control those negative thoughts. It's like, I can't. There's a part of me that is like, what would Jesus do? Like, he would do all this and this and this, and I know how to be his. But then the other half is like, no. No, Karrigan, you're not pretty enough, you're not thin enough, you're not good enough, you don't play sports well enough, you don't do this enough, you don't have good enough grades, you don't have this, you don't have a good enough paying job. But the thing is that's why we don't know how to be his. Is because we're listing all the reasons we shouldn't be his. verses go in that song. So love me or hate me, I'm not going anywhere. And this is God talking to us. Leave me or take me, you still bear my signature. And I love that because I literally just watched Toy Story last night, and they all have Andy written on the bottom of their feet. And the toys get lost a lot. I mean, for real. They get lost a lot. I'm like, come on, people. But they always find their way back to Andy. So you can love God for something. You can hate God for something. You can leave him in the past because, remember, we like to leave people who say they're going to stay because the last person that told me that didn't stay. Or take him anywhere. We still bear his signature on our hearts. And I really love this last part. It's so comforting. So know me or not, seen or forgotten, I'm not walking out on you. Maybe the reason 2020 just keeps getting worse is because we want to rack up those points in our brain. We don't like to admit it. But really, how many times have we been like, okay, what's going to happen today? Let's add it on the board of 2020 is the worst year ever. And though it's had its many downs, maybe the reason God's trying to do this is because the only way we can ever grow is by digging deeper into the dirt. You ever thought about that? Maybe the reason we feel so broken is because in order to fix something, it's got to break first. Just like that wall. In order to fix a wall that's like my dad put up or something, in order to fix it, because the foundation is so rocky, you have to tear it down first. So Taylor, if you could play that song. This is the song I'm talking about. It's called I Don't Know How to Be Yours. God, I don't know how to be that good Christian. I don't know how to be that person that's always positive in this year. I don't know how, but I'm going to figure it out just with everyone else. So you can love him, you can hate him, but he's not going anywhere. So I want you all to close your eyes real quick and just listen to the lyrics. Don't say that you love me, 'cause I don't know how to be yours. Say that you want me, don't say that you want me, 'cause I don't know how to be yours. I still act like an orphan, I guess. My heart breaks to confess. Even while you hold me as I cry on the floor. Sing it with me. I still don't know how to be yours. We still act like orphans because we've been left behind so much. We still act forgotten because we've been left behind so much. We still act like we don't know how to love because we've been unloved so much. We still act like we don't know him because we haven't been with him too much. So maybe you need to spend more time with God. Maybe that means the times you've been quarantining, instead of complaining about, man, 2020 sucks, maybe use that to get closer to God. I truly believe everything happens for a reason because I've seen it. Maybe not in the time it happens, but surely years later. Because he's not going anywhere like the others who left. He loves because he is love. The love we want to feel, he's got it. The safety and protection we want to feel, he's got it. The healing and health we want to feel, he's got it. If y'all could stand with me real quick. We're going to finish out this song till we get to my favorite part, which is where God talks to us. If you want to turn it up a little bit, Taylor, and everyone close your eyes again. I know I'm making you go blind, but we're blind walking, right? Put your hand on your heart or your hand in the air, or even just by your sides, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Maybe you feel comfortable with hugging yourself, just like God is hugging you as you cry on the floor. Everyone was like, this is my year, the year of vision. And I know we talk about this a lot in church. Maybe it's called 2020 because God wants us to have perfect vision. And the vision we had in 2019, 2018, that wasn't perfect. This is the year we own that we are His. So if y'all could pray with me real quick. Dear God, we thank you for how faithful you've been, and we greatly ask for forgiveness for the times we asked where you were, we asked what you were doing, we asked who you are, where you are, and how we can reach you, God. Thank you for always being faithful and opening our eyes and showing us that we are yours, God, and though we may never know what it truly feels like to have your love, because that's so great, God, bring us one step closer. Bring us one step closer to you, no matter what that takes. Make us stronger, even if that means you have to tear down our walls and reach us. Heal us, God. We are such orphans. We're so lost. We don't know what it's like to have such a good Father like you. Make us be that heaven on earth. Make us be that light that others need, that we need. Make us be that person who stays when everyone in our life is left. Help us to learn how to be yours. In your name we pray and praise.